Welcome to our tutorial for question 18 of our weekly review. Question 18 is working with circles, and we haven't done a whole lot of work with circles in the past, so there's some important things that we need to know. We're going to learn about the parts of the circles as well as some formulas for the circles. And one of the things I want to tell you is that while you're working on this problem, you are more than welcome to use a formula sheet, to use calculators to make your calculations. What I will ask you not to use is please do not use a formula calculator. There are lots of formula calculators online that you can simply type in parts of a circle and find the area or the volume or the circumference and things like that. And I want you to actually practice using those formulas, so please don't use the formula calculators that you might find online. Let's go ahead and start by talking about the parts of a circle. And I'm going to draw a circle here on the bottom. And notice that I've put a center point in that circle. That center point is actually really important because the definition of a circle involves a shape that has a center point where all sides are equidistant from that center point. So it doesn't matter if I go up, down, left, right, diagonal. The distance from that center point to the edge should always be exactly the same. And that leads us to the first vocabulary word, or the first part of our circle, which is a radius. And the radius is simply the distance from that center point to the edge. And again, that could be going any direction. Here I've drawn it going horizontally, but we could have drawn up, down, left, right, diagonal. It wouldn't matter because we know that that distance is always the same. Next, we have the diameter, and the diameter is the distance across the circle, but it must run through or pass through that center point. Here's an example of our diameter, and notice again we could have done up, down, left, right, diagonally. Doesn't really matter. It should be the same because that is part of the definition of our circle. Next, we have a chord, and we don't actually use chords very often when we're working with circles, but it's important to know what they are because a chord is the distance across the circle, but that does not pass through the center. And a chord might look like that, and it's really important that we understand that because sometimes when we're working with circles, you might see a line that goes through the center or through the circle, but that doesn't pass through the center. And we can't use that in our formulas. That's not part of any of our formulas that we're going to use. Finally, we have the circumference. And the circumference of a circle is similar to the perimeter of other shapes like triangles or rectangles, but the circumference is simply the distance around a circle. Now that we know the parts of a circle, let's go ahead and talk about some formulas that we can use to find area and circumference and volume of circular objects. As we go ahead and get started here, I'm going to remind you, you don't have to memorize these formulas. The more that you use them, the better that you'll become with them, but you're welcome to use this page or a formula sheet to help you out. The area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. And if you've ever seen the number pi before, that's a really special number that we frequently use when we work with circles. If you want to find the circumference of a circle, you're simply going to multiply 2 times pi times the radius. If you need to find the diameter, you can multiply 2 times the radius. And if you need to find the radius, you can take the diameter and divide it by 2, or diameter over 2 would give you the radius. Also, if we're looking at a cylindrical object, you could think about that like a can of pop or soda. That's a cylinder. And if we were going to find the volume of that cylinder, we would find the area of the circular base, and we would multiply that by the height. So you're going to notice that we still have the same formula for area of a circle, which is pi r squared, and we just multiply that by the height. Let's go ahead and shrink those formulas down so that we can use those in some examples here. Here, I have a circle that has a diameter of 12. Remember, the diameter is the distance across that runs through the center of the circle. Well, I'm going to look at my formulas and notice that the only formula that uses the diameter is the radius. So I actually need to convert my diameter into the radius first, which isn't too difficult, but I definitely want the radius because in order to find area, circumference, volume, I need the radius for that. So let's go ahead and take our radius, which is equal to the diameter, over 2, or 12 over 2, and now we have our radius of 6, and we can use this to apply in our formulas. Let's go ahead and find the area of this circle. Here we would have pi times the radius, which was 6, squared. And 6 squared is equal to 36. So my answer for the area of a circle, of this circle, is 36 pi. That's actually the most accurate answer that I can get. Remember that pi is an irrational number. It's a number that never ends and never repeats. So we can't actually get any more accurate than writing 36 pi. However, frequently you may want to round your answer in this. So we could round that approximation by using 3.14 as the value of pi. So if I multiplied 36 times 3.14, I'm going to get an estimated or approximate answer of 13.06. To find the circumference, I can take 2 times pi times my radius. My radius was 6, which would give me 12 pi. 2 times 6 is 12 times pi. And again, that's the most accurate that my answer can become. However, if I wanted to estimate or calculate a close approximation of this answer, I could use 3.14 in place of pi. So 12 times 3.14 would give me an approximate circumference of 37.68. Finally, if we were going to take a look at the volume, right? So let's treat this like it's a can of pop. And I had that same shape. We're going to pretend that that same circle is the bottom of that cylinder. Well, we would apply the same formula. Remember that the volume of a cylinder is the area, which we actually already did, times the height. So that's pi times 6 squared times 30. In this case, my height was 30. That was 36 pi, which we already knew, times 30. That would be 1,080 pi. Again, that's the most accurate answer that I could get. If I wanted to approximate, I could use 3.14 as my value for pi, and I could get an approximate answer of 3,391.2. One quick thing to note is notice that I did not use my value of 3.14 until the very end. I didn't use my approximate area of a circle, which was 113.06. I did not take that and multiply that by 30. Remember that when you round, the sooner in your problem that you round, the less accurate that your answer will be in the end.